Like millions of others, my introduction to the depths of the Marvel Universe was the MCU. That got me interested in the action figures, which got me more interested in knowing more about the source material. Unfortunately, comic books are notoriously difficult to jump into, and Black Panther comics are no different. Well, fear not, because in this video, I'm going to help you dive right in and start reading Black Panther comics. What's up, everybody? My name is Matt, sometimes called Big Nerdy. Together, we are the NWO, the Nerd World Order, and this is Nerdzoic. If this is your first time here, who am I? Who am I? The eternal question. Hey, I'm Big Nerdy. I talk about toys most of the time, but sometimes I talk about the things that toys are based on, and that's what we're doing here. So Black Panther, like many other of the early superheroes in Marvel, he was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. He first appeared in Fantastic Four number 52 in 1966. His real name is T'Challa, and he is the king and protector of the fictional African nation of Wakanda, which hopefully my kid watches so he doesn't put Wakanda as one of the countries again on a geography test. The Black Panther has enhanced abilities which are achieved through ancient Wakandan rituals of drinking the essence of the heart-shaped herb. T'Challa relies on his proficiency in science, physical training, like me, obviously, as well as hand-to-hand combat skills and his access to wealth and advanced Wakandan technology to combat his enemies. The Black Panther title itself is ceremonial in nature, and it's given to the chief of the Panther tribe, much like the tribal chief is the head of the Samoan tribe. Acknowledge me. Historically, T'Challa is a pretty big deal because he is the first superhero of African descent. He was later followed by others including the Falcon, Luke Cage, Blade, and John Stewart Green Lantern. So let's start with a full reading order. So if you want like a robust reading order, like, read it all, I recommend the amazing comicbookreadingorder.com. The site has literally everything you might need for almost any character or storyline, but it can be a little dense or overwhelming. Now, to be clear, the list here is not everything. It's more of an abridged version of what you want to read if you want to know just about everything. Now, if you're a glutton for punishment and you literally want to read every single thing that Black Panther's in, I highly recommend that go start to finish on this list before you find a more complete list like the one on Comic Book Herald. The reason for that is because unless you're like a super fan, kind of like I am with Daredevil, you're probably not going to love some of the weaker books and it will become more of a chore than it is fun. Also, before you start buying any books, just go pay for and download the Marvel Comics app. It is like the best value in entertainment, period. It's like 75 bucks a year and I get so much value out of it, I love it. Just don't tell my wife I'm also wasting money on the DC subscription at the same time. All right, let's talk jumping on points. So the obvious first jumping on point is the full list that I just mentioned, starting with Fantastic Four number 52. As a matter of fact, I recommend that no matter where you start, you read Fantastic Four 52 because it's a fun introduction to the character. Jumping on point number 2 is actually listed on the Comic Reading Order website as an alternate starting point, and that is Black Panther number 1 volume 3, which came out in 1998. I read his first appearance, then I skipped ahead 30 years to this book. This jumping on point is part of the Marvel Knights imprint that ran from the late 90s to the early 2000s. The books in this series were meant to tell standalone stories of more low-profile characters, and Marvel actually brought in a bunch of independent writers and artists to add a new voice to these characters, like Brian Michael Bendis, Garth Ennis, Steve Dillon, and Silent Bob. But not yet. Jumping on point number 3 is for people who don't want to go quite back so far, and that is Black Panther Volume 7, number 1. So this book comes right out of Secret Wars, which is my favorite comic event ever, by the way, and in Secret Wars, all the separate Marvel universes collide and form a new universe and a new continuity, and that's where we get this jumping on point. And a fourth jumping on point is Black Panther Unconquered number 1. Now this book is actually being released at the same time as Wakanda Forever, intentionally as a jumping on point for new readers. In fact, as this video releases, this book isn't even out yet, but it should be around right about the time of the movie releasing. Now, obviously, I have not read this yet, and I can't speak to the quality of its content, but if you want to jump right in with the current continuity, this will be a good start. Let's talk must-read runs, so storylines that you absolutely have to read. This is for those who just want to cherry-pick the good stuff. I have a few for you. Number 1 is called The Client, which also happens to be the aforementioned jumping on point number 2 that I started with. This storyline's a bit slow at first, and it's actually not told from Black Panther's point of view. Rather, it's told from State Department agent Everett Ross. This book's written by Christopher Priest, who is probably the writer most synonymous with Black Panther. My second recommendation is Enemy of the State, which started in issue 11 of the Marvel Knights run, which was shortly after the aforementioned storyline, The Client. When it comes to Priest Black Panther comics, this is probably like the peak of his run. It's got tons of political intrigue, it's got some humor, just check it out, you'll love it. Another recommendation is See Wakanda Die, which is a secret invasion tie-in. This is written by one of my favorite comic writers, Jason Aaron. With the enemy Skrull invasion at its peak, we get to see how Wakanda is able to withstand the invasion as they have withstood other invasions for centuries. My next recommendation is Who is Black Panther? This is a follow-up to Christopher Priest's run, and it's notable because this is where we see him meet his future wife, Storm. And the final recommendation I have is called The Bride, and no, this isn't a Kill Bill reference. Aside from it being the storyline that sees Storm and Black Panther finally tie the knot, this story is made special by its timing. It happens right in the middle of Marvel's first Civil War, which is probably the biggest event that Marvel's ever even had. The wedding creates a neutral ground for both sides of the conflict here, and it makes for some very interesting reading. Also, we got Luke Cage planning T'Challa's bachelor party, so you know that's gonna be crazy. One of the bachelor party's major attendees was none other than Spider-Man, who has about as deep and complicated a comic history as you can imagine. And if you want to jump right in, I got you covered in this video here. And remember, you gotta get old, but you don't have to grow up. All you gotta do is be cool and stay nerdy. Later.